Today I'm going to share how to use one of my last-minute Christmas printables to make a small, rustic holiday sign. First, you're going to choose and download the printable that you'd like to use for your small, rustic sign. If you're seeing this video on YouTube, I'll put the link to the blog post with the printables below. Then you're going to print the printable. I'm choosing the 3 trees here, but the 3 trees are a little bit too big for the sign I'm going to be using them for. So I'm going to scale down the entire printable to 50%. That's sort of just a guess, so that my sign is going to be pretty small at the end. After I'm happy with the size, I'm going to print, and you can see here that the trees are pretty small. I'm going to be using some chalk paint and some wood slats that I got a while back at Walmart. Also going to be using some Mod Podge to adhere the 3 trees to the sign when I'm done. I first painted a layer of chalk paint onto the wood sign. I didn't show that step because it's just painting. Then I want to make sure that my trees are going to fit, and it looks like they're going to be about the perfect size for this piece of wood. And I did paint both sides. That's just because I didn't want any of the wood color to show through the paper after I Mod Podged it to the wood. Now I'm going to just flip it over and trace around the wood so that I know exactly which part of the paper I'm going to be using for my sign at the end. I cut that out. I'm not too worried about making this the exact size of the wood that I'm going to be gluing it to later. It's okay if it's a little bit larger around the edges. I have a trick that I'll show you later that's going to smooth all that out and make it even and look like it's one piece. So after your printable has been cut to size and your wood scrap has been painted, you're going to brush a light layer of Mod Podge over the entire surface, making sure that there's no big globs or anything. It's very smooth. You're going to take your printable and very carefully, as even as you can, lay it right down on top of the surface that you just Mod Podged. That's going to help your paper stick. Make it smooth with your hands. Some people like to use a credit card for this or a scrap of cardboard. I'm just using my hands right now. After it's smooth and how you like it, when there's no bubbles, you're going to set it aside and let it dry. After it's dry, you're going to brush another layer of Mod Podge over top of the printable. And again, you want to make sure that it's brushed evenly. There's no big clumps. I did have a couple bubbles I found afterwards, which is kind of a bummer, but I'm just going to push through, let that go. I'm not going to worry about it. And get it all brushed even. You're going to set that aside and let that dry as well. Once your Mod Podge layer from the top is totally dry, it's time to get rid of any of the overhanging edges that ended up being a little bit too long. And the easy trick that I promised I would show is just a matter of sanding off the paper. Couldn't be easier, couldn't be faster. Don't worry about measuring everything precisely. After it's glued, after it's dry, you just run some fine grit sandpaper over the edge at an angle, and the extra paper will just peel right off. I don't know what it is about sanding the sides of these signs and watching that paper curl off. It's just so satisfying to me. Just one of my favorite tricks. I really love it. your edges are clean, your Mod Podge is dry, it's time to add the rustic part of this last minute rustic holiday sign. We're going to use some of the antique wax from Cermacoat. I picked this up actually at an AC Moore, but you can find a similar product in any craft store or online. You would use this for any sort of chalk paint finish that you were going to use, and it also works in this as well. Now a little bit goes an extremely long way. I just use a lint-free rag, it's actually an old t-shirt, just to dab a tiny bit from the cap and rub it along the edges, blending it in, going straight across the sign, along the sides, just anywhere I think that a sign would be kind of roughed up if it was a little bit older. And I'm just going to rub it in as much as I can, and you'll see that it starts giving the Mod Podge surface sort of a rustic effect. It looks a little antique, it looks a little bit worn, and that's what you're going for. You don't want that brand new paper gleaming sign. We're looking for something that just gives the feeling that it's seen a few Christmases in its past. That's it. That is how you can use one of my last minute printables, resize it, and use it to make your own rustic holiday sign. Now again, this one's pretty tiny, but I like to just kind of sneak that in someplace where I need a little bit of something extra. I actually ended up using this one right in my foyer. I have a big chalkboard that I change out every season. I add a little something extra around the edges. This one is some little red berries and some snowflakes, and it says, "May your days be merry and bright." And so I just snuck this one in just to add a little something.